My name is Jay Bridgeball. I'm a real estate broker since 1988. I've seen the good days, the bad days, and the not so bad days. My passion is to educate consumer about all aspect in real estate. Actually, I sold over $1.75 billion in real estate. Now, that's a lot of experience. I went through many failures, many successes, and I've seen many stories that you will be amazed. Not everything looks so glamorous as it is sometimes. On Let's Talk Real Estate, we will dig deep down and I will take you step by step through every process, from buying your first home to buying a multi-million dollar investment property. We will have various people on this show: lawyers, investors, we'll have mortgage brokers, appraisals, and everyone else to assist us to take you to that point. My aim is to break it down in such easy terms that you will be able to follow. So please join me every Thursday between 1 and 2, and let's talk real estate.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate. Usually with Jay Bridgepall and myself, Amit Canheim, but Jay is away right now, and we have a special guest today. This is Dennis Allison, who is also from the Bridge team. So, Dennis, let's jump right into the purpose of this specific episode. What we were really talking about today is, what are those preliminary thoughts when you're just saying, I think I want to buy a house. Maybe you're renting, maybe you're living at home with your parents, and you're basically the first point of contact with the majority of our clients at the Bridge team, because you're the guy that answers the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the one that's responding to the web form when they log in, right?
Yeah.
So Dennis, for a lot of our viewers out there, they may be just thinking about this exact same thing, and what are the first thing they do? They turn to Google.
Yeah.
They check, what am I going to need to do? What is my financial situation right? So what are some of the strange things that pop up in the forums? Like what kind of questions do people ask?
Well, a lot of times, I like to guide them first of all, because a lot of people are green per se. They don't know anything when it comes to the process. So a lot of times I will ask, how much down payment do you have? What is your credit situation like?
Right.
Do you have any outstanding debts? A big thing too. Is people get car loans and they don't realize how much it affects.
Well, Dennis, I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, here's a scenario that I'd like to explain to some of our viewers. Basically, so imagine you're the head of a department, and you're running. Maybe 15 people report to you in an accounting department, and almost you're the big shot. You're the guy in charge, and you're kind of the person that everyone looks to for advice. But then you go towards purchasing a home, and you don't even know something as simple as a car loan might negatively affect your purchasing power. So I guess I'll go into a little bit of detail on that one, for example. And a lot of people don't understand that if you have a car loan that's amortized usually over 5 years or 6 years versus a mortgage which is amortized over 20, 25, or 30 years, there's going to be a big difference in your payment. So I'll just give you some rough ideas, right? Like a $25,000 car loan that's amortized over 5 years, obviously depending on the interest, is going to equal $200, $300, $400, $500 monthly payment because it's over a shorter period of time. So I guess something that you've noticed is when people are looking through or trying to apply, that subtracts from the amount of mortgage that they could potentially get.
Exactly.
Yeah. And something that's important for everyone to realize, it's not just about the amount of the mortgage, the dollar value. It's about your monthly cash flow.
Yes, exactly.
And that's something that the bank is going to really look at. I myself, I worked at the bank for a number of years, so I kind of have a grasp on that.
Yeah.
So you're saying that when you say people are green.
Yeah, it's meaning a lot of people don't realize what's entailed when it comes to purchasing a home and what you need. A simple car loan, for example, there was a client just last week, and I talked to him before and explained to him how much a car loan would affect him. And if no matter how good of a deal you're getting, it's better to get it after you've got your
And
mortgage
that,
done,
that
right?
that's great advice, because there's another thing, and not for us to dive too much into the mortgage aspect, but one thing that's really important for people to know is the bank actually reserves the right to check and recheck your credit anytime up until the date that everything is being funded. So that's pretty important when you think about it, because if the bank says, okay, listen, Dennis, today is January 1st, you have an approval. And then you go out and make a purchase, and then the next thing you know,
Exactly.
on February 10th, you before they give you the loan, they run your credit and they say, oops, sorry.
Yeah, you bought a car.
Yeah.
You know?
And because what's going to happen is, and when you look at the grand scheme of things, you as the consumer may say, oh, don't worry, I know I can afford it because you don't have this many other expenses. But the bank has very strict guidelines
Yes.
on these sorts of things. Okay, so that's good. So now, obviously, people they write into you on the forums, on the websites, and you're their initial call. So what are some other questions that people ask you, or what kind of situations? Because this is the real focus of this episode is, am I ready to purchase?
Yes, yes. Especially with the mortgage changes that's been happening, that's a big aspect on first-time buyers. Like before January, they had a better chance to get their approval.
They were being approved by a larger amount.
Exactly,
as well. Yeah.
exactly. But nowadays, with the mortgage changes, a lot of people are not getting approved for anything, just with the prices
lower
that are out
amount,
there.
yeah.
Exactly, they're getting approved for a lower amount.
So
Yeah.
what I've even noticed myself, Dennis, is we are seeing people that are, maybe they would have been pre-qualified for 500 or 550, and now they're qualified in the 400 territory, 410 or something of that nature. So a lot of times people are just they're thinking, and I know it's frustrating. So I'm sure you can tell us a little
Yeah.
about, like, you're doing searches with clients and you're talking to them, and initially they're probably thinking, well, hey, I want to get that, that starter home that, my parents got,
Yeah.
25 years ago or
Yeah.
whatever, and they're not really able to get it. So is it frustrating for your clients, or?
It's very frustrating. A piece of advice I'll give anybody who's a first-time buyer or looking to buy a home in period is that keep in mind, you may feel comfortable with spending 500,000 because you believe between your income and your spouse's or whatever money you have, put as a
Down payments
payment,
and whatnot, yeah.
you feel you can afford that. But your best bet is, a lot of people will call the real estate agent first because that's just the thing you do. You just think, okay, I want to buy a house, let me call a real estate agent. But your best bet is to get the approval first. And a lot of times my job is I do the inside sales for the bridge team,
Right.
and I am pretty much the guidance guy. I kind of show you, okay, this is what you should do, this is the steps and avenues to go through.
Right.
And that's what gives the bridge team
a little bit of a cutting edge.
step up. Yeah, you know what I mean? So in that sense, it's better to get your approval first, because if you go and you start looking at properties or realtor.ca and all these type of things, and
You might unexpectedly get your hopes
your
up.
hopes are up. Exactly. And it's like, you don't want to shoot yourself down. Now you got this approval, and all these houses you've seen that you loved are now, it's out of grasp.
Yeah, because also with a lot of the websites, like the Home Finder or Realtor.ca, whichever ones they are, a lot of the times, they'll give you an average of what your mortgage payment would be like on the right hand side of it. So people in their mind, they're saying, oh, I can afford this, and that's kind of what they're going on.
Yeah.
But that's not really the case. So you recommend, which a lot of us do, make sure that you get your pre-qualification out of the way. So we talked a little bit about pre-qualification. We talked a little bit about that. How about down payments now? Down payments is it's a heck of a thing, because they say you can get away with the 5% down, but realistically, when you have properties of these price ranges, you have the CMHC fees that are involved, and then the fact of the matter is, if you don't have a sizable down payment, sometimes it's a little bit tough.
Yeah, on your monthly especially.
Yeah, because then your monthly payments are significantly higher.
Exactly.
Okay.
A lot of the times, I'm going to recommend for anybody buying a house is if you're able to put down the 20%, that's your best bet.
Yeah.
That's your best bet, because then you skip the CMHC fees. That's a certain amount of
your
the
purchase
overall,
price,
yeah.
yeah. And gone are the days where at least you were avoiding the being pre-qualified on the higher interest rate when you put over 20%. Nowadays, with the mortgage rules changing, everyone is being pre-qualified on that higher amount.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it is it's a little bit tough. So Okay, so basically we're at this stage now where the client has reached out to you and said, hey, I'm thinking about purchasing, and you're sort of guiding them along the step. Next, I guess that's what you do. You recommend them to see an agent, or how does that work?
So the process, how it works for me, is I will guide the client towards the mortgage broker if they don't already work with somebody from their bank, or a friend of theirs who's a mortgage broker, or somebody, right?
Right.
If they don't have anybody, we'll recommend them to one of our guys that we work with closely.
Okay.
From there, when we get the pre-approval, sorry.
Yeah.
Then I look for the right fit of agent. For example, if I have a younger demographic, I'll go with you and the younger guys on our team.
Right.
And different temperaments. We got some people who are on a slower pace, and the clients that are on a slower pace, they kind of mesh together.
I guess also there's certain things around like how their preferred methods of communication. But you know what? What I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna stick a pin in it, and what we'll do is we'll just come back after the break. We're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll jump a little bit more about what you do into in this process.
For sure, yeah.
All right, give me 1 sec. Take care. Okay, so that's it.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
All right, welcome back, guys, to the next segment on Let's Talk Real Estate. So, as I mentioned before, I'm here with Dennis Allison from the Bridge team, and we're just talking about all the preliminary steps that are involved in even just thinking, hey, it's time for me to purchase a home. Is it the right time? What do I do? So one thing that I'm hearing now is, well, and also I've known, is that, the Bridge team, we kind of have a little bit of an area where you have someone that can guide you before the agent process. And it helps quite a bit. So we were talking a little bit about that. You were saying that the way you pair up certain potential clients with agents is not just, whoever's available, but you look at their temperament.
Exactly.
Even something as simple as, a lot of people maybe these days prefer to communicate on text messaging.
Yeah. Yeah. So we use actually a bunch of different methods. That's been working great. What we've been doing recently is actually WhatsApp groups, and that's been working fantastic.
I'm glad you touched on the technology aspect, Dennis, because when you think about it now, in today's extremely busy paced world, it's even tough sometimes to, carve out a couple hours to speak to your significant other. Much less talk to your agent during a search process or when he's checking up for mortgage pre-qualifying or pre-approval. So everyone is talking on, group chats or text messages. So a group chat like that is going to, I guess, allow you to reach out to both of them at the same time and share, I guess, the same information. Because the last thing you want to do is be making the call, speak to a husband, then making the call, speak to the wife, and then sometimes they're not both on the same page.
Exactly.
Okay, so WhatsApp, I guess that's a part of your...
It works well for me because even, with the spouses and the agent being in the same group chat too, is that I can do my part as to, okay, guys, here's the update. as to what I've got from the mortgage broker, what you, for example, may have got from the mortgage broker, and can relate to both of them in the same group. That okay, I got to call my wife and I'll get back to you, because it just eliminates the middleman.
I guess
kind of thing, right?
it's kind of like it's a full service aspect.
Absolutely.
So you're bringing that to real estate.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, like I can attest to it that our clients have been very happy with that.
Oh yeah. It's just picking the right method of communication too, because some people don't use WhatsApp. So I would do emails and CC everybody on it, and we continue that same thread. That way, if someone says, "Oh, I didn't see that email," you just go down that thread,
scroll back,
and you can find it right back there.
Okay. So that's good. So let's move on a little bit from that part now. So we've gone ahead. We've already thought about, should I purchase a home? We've gone to the bank now. The bank has said this is what your pre-qualifying amount is, and then we've hooked up with Dennis from the bridge team, and you've now paired with an agent. So I guess now agent and yourself, they kind of do search together. So it's the reason I like this model better is because then people aren't just randomly searching online on websites.
Exactly.
They have someone that's there with them all the time, and it's not just their agent. They have a dedicated inside sales department that's kind of working through it. So tell me a little bit about that. Do you search realtor.ca? Are you on the new collab system? Like, what's the how does that work?
Well, I'm glad that you asked me about that, because there's a new system that I've been using that's been working great. Great. It's called Collaborate, actually. And with Collaborate, you can add your client. So you send an email invitation, and then when your client accepts that email, they can now search the MLS like an agent does.
You see, what I really like about that system, and we talked a little bit about it in one of the previous episodes, but what I really like about it is the client now is empowered exactly as if an agent.
Absolutely.
Now the issues are with home finder websites and different ones that are all over the internet now is a lot of these websites are outdated.
Absolutely.
So and in a fluid market, like even today, where homes are still selling within 30 or 35 days, you don't want to be looking at something that's sold in December when we're already in February.
It becomes one of those things, kind of like we were talking about before, about getting your hopes up. You go on realtor.ca, you're like, wow, I love this place. This is the place I can see myself living in for years upon years.
Right.
Next thing you know, you talk to one of us, and it's like, oh, sorry, got to shoot you down here. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it's like,
no.
It brings up your hopes. So that way, with the Collaborate system, you're seeing real time. Exactly what a realtor would see is exactly what you're going to see. Well, not to the... There's little differences, but
right. Otherwise, you wouldn't need a realtor.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's good. So basically, that's the new system. And you know what? One thing that I think you probably are going to mention soon enough, but the realtor and yourself can see everything that the client clicks on.
Yes.
So if they like, originally on the initial discussions, then they've said, oh, I want to live in the North Park community of Brampton, or for example, but then you see them sort of slowly drifting out to maybe Milton or Caledon area. Then it'll help you in your daily searches, and then you can kind of figure out exactly, well, I don't want to keep it all to this area. Let me just expand a little bit.
Yeah. So to touch on that, when client, they can actually give feedback. So if you like a property, you just click like, and then you can put a comment, hey, I would like to see this property, which you can communicate straight through Collaborate instead of text message or email or anything like that.
The way you're kind of describing it, Dennis, it almost sounds like kind of like Facebook.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty much the same way. And as the realtor and the client can set up a automated search. So say for example, your amount you want to spend is $600,000 with 4 bedrooms and certain lot size and so forth. You can put all that criteria in there and get a daily search that pops up every day, and it comes on your newsfeed, which will be seen by both the agent and the client.
So it's very detailed. It's very detailed.
Oh, yeah.
But one thing that I always love about these daily searches is as soon as it comes live on the market, you get it. But that's also one thing that I love about how you do your job, because you do searches for the same client multiple times throughout the day just to see if anything has just been recently loaded to the MLS.
Exactly.
And that's a little bit of a cutting edge when it comes to that, because one thing that I've seen in particular is when we set up the old version, which is basically just an email that pops up in the client's email. It's already been live. The listing's already been live on the market for maybe 5, 10, 20, 30 hours. So it's not over 24, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So there's already a chance that somebody or maybe multiple people have already gone in to see that property.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess it gives you a little bit of a little bit of an edge, because you and I have both seen where a property that's 0 days on market, you call to book the appointment and it's sold.
Yeah. Some properties, they're so hot they don't even last the day. They don't even last a couple hours.
Yeah.
So the thing that makes it different too, it's like you got to think too. If you're getting an email all the time from your realtor, and you come across a couple properties that's been like, this is mediocre, and then you start to realize this is an automated thing.
Yeah.
So then you start to cast it away.
Right, because it does, like you said, they just come every day, in the morning. Yeah.
Exactly. So with me, what I do, which gives us the cutting edge, is that I will go through probably every hour to half an hour to an hour, and make sure if there's anything that fits the client's criteria, I will send that over right away, because then the agent will get it, the clients will get it, and you can book the appointment right away, and you have the drop on it, right?
Wow.
You can go for it, right?
Yeah, so that's impressive. That's impressive. So it really just gives you a little bit of a little bit extra edge, like we were saying. And I guess the thing in today's market, it's a little bit more balanced, but it's still very important to go see that property right away.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we have clients that say, maybe we'll wait, a couple days, wait till the weekend to go have a peek at it.
And it's gone.
And then it's gone. Yeah. So it's it changes in every market. It really depends. But I guess it's important to have as much assistance as you can get.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you don't want to just be searching on your on your own all day.
Exactly. Especially when you're a first-time buyer, you want that guidance. And a lot of times people come to the bridge team for that guidance, because you know that you have a team working for you opposed to just one person. You're paying the same amount for the team than you are paying for one person doing
exactly.
the same job.
And the best part about that too is, even as buyers, there's obviously no cost to the buyers.
Absolutely.
Something as simple as that, many people don't actually understand. And we're gonna get into costing and different things like that a little bit later in the episode. But what we'll do in the meantime, we'll just take a quick break, and then we'll get into a little bit of what sort of costs are involved and these sort of things, incidental fees like that really no one really thinks about.
True.
All right, so we'll be back in a sec.
We are doing this event for the community. But what if CEO actually stood for catching every opportunity? This week alone, I've seen 3 businesses that shut their doors in this community.
Investing in yourself. Like, you have to know what your brand is first. So there's no other way that you're going to build a brand unless you network. You have to eventually get out there.
And it stems down to a lot of times not having the right knowledge, the right know-how. This event for the community. But what if CEO actually stood for catching?
Hi everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk Real Estate. I'm your host, Amit Kanhai, and we've got Dennis here, also from the Bridge team. Jay's on a little hiatus right now, but that's all right. What we're talking about right now is just all the different costs that really no one thinks about when initially making that decision, saying, well, hey, I want to buy a property.
Yeah.
So there's some things that are very simple, like say property taxes, and then there's some things that are just completely foreign to many buyers, and
Yeah.
it's something like your electricity costs. Well, actually, on the break, you were talking about a specific story where a client said they found a cheap property. Well, I'll let you share the story.
Well, here's the thing. Like, you see these cheap properties, and it kind of gets you giddy because you're thinking, "Oh my God, I found the property that's going to make this client happy." Because I tell all my clients, and it's the truth, I will not give you information or guidance that I want to give my own mother.
Yeah.
So I had this story with clients of mine. They called me and said, "Hey, I found this semi-detached for $300,000." I jumped out of my chair. I was like,
Oh,
"Wow, this is
beautiful,
crazy."
yeah.
So I was looking at it, and I was going through the details on it, and my heart just went, "Oh man!"
It dropped.
I was looking for that forced air for the heating because that's what I look for all the time. Because
when you make your parameters,
when I
right?
make my parameters, yeah. And what I found was it was baseboard electric heating.
And for some of our viewers out there that really won't understand or they don't know about this, because hey, if you, for example, worked whatever job it is, you're in the accounting department, you don't really know the difference between forced induction heating, baseboard heating, electric heating.
Exactly.
So I'll explain a little bit about it. So that's, instead of a furnace, you actually have baseboards that run around the house, and they actually uses electricity to create heat. Yeah. So and many of our viewers might not understand that's probably the most inefficient way to create heat.
If you want a high hydro bill, go for baseboard electric.
So and the thing is that a lot of these properties now, it's some viewers might ask, well, why do they even exist, right? But back when they were built in the 60s and 70s and whatnot, electricity was not nearly as expensive as it was now. So it was actually looked at as a relatively comparable option to a $2,000 furnace. Instead, we just put these coils all around the house. But now gas delivery is significantly cheaper than it is for electricity.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be wasting all that current
Yeah,
as you would on
on
that. So in that particular situation, what happened with the client?
Well, we did end up finding something overall, but now it kind of was etched in their head that when you see baseboard electric, because when I told it to them, I kind of made it like a scary story, because you look at
it's
your
costly.
hydro,
It's
it's
expensive.
very costly. It becomes a nightmare. It's like watching a horror movie. I don't want to open my bill anymore.
Right.
So,
and I guess it's really just that expensive for the winter time, right? So you get maybe 2 or 3 times more expensive than a normal gas furnace, or even an electric furnace, for example, is still better than a baseboard electric heater.
Yeah.
So I guess those are some of the things that you, as clients, have come to you and said, well, wow, this is something great that's out there, but you gotta guide them, I guess, and steer them back into the right direction.
Because a lot of people, they don't know, like we started off saying, right? And along with the same cost you're talking about is a lot of people don't realize. They say, oh, hey, I have a $15,000 or $30,000 down payment, but they don't realize you need to keep in the GTA at least about 1 to 1.5%. In Toronto, you need 2% for sure.
Right.
Just for closing costs.
And you see, it's great you brought that up now, because closing costs, everyone thinks, well, hey, I'm purchasing a property. I don't have any closing costs. Everything, all the research has been pointing, saying that the buyer doesn't, have to pay the agents anything. And that is correct. But when you think about it, closing costs entail a few different things. You just went through this process yourself, even buying and selling a few properties and whatnot, and you've definitely come a long way in the last couple of years. So realistically now, closing costs for legal fees.
Yes.
These are something that many people don't really understand. Well, hey, I do know I need a lawyer to close the transaction, but what am I doing? Am I paying the lawyer $1,000, $500, $10,000?
Yeah.
So it's something like that you realize you got a budget on average about $1,000 to maybe $1,500 for the lawyer to kind of go in, do title searches on the property. And these are things that very simple. You just want to make sure that the people that you are buying the house from actually own the house.
Yeah, exactly. Last thing you want to do is sell a house that doesn't belong to that person.
Right, or even the fact of there's been many instances where contractors will do work on properties, and then maybe the person didn't actually pay the contractor out altogether. And in Ontario law, it dictates that the contractor can register a lien,
Yes,
against
exactly.
that property. And then what happens when you, Mr. Buyer, you assume that house? You don't just assume the house. You assume
the lien.
you assume the lien. So you assume the debt that comes along with that home. In recent years, we've been seeing that a lot with furnaces, AC units, different things like that. You see a lot of those guys that are going around knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you a free, or a furnace for, only $20 a month, and you get a brand new high efficiency furnace." When you really look at that over the 10-year term they give it to you, you're paying maybe $8,000, $9,000, for a $2,500 furnace.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people don't know that. These guys come knock on your door, and you're thinking, and the funny thing about it is some of them come claiming they're from the energy company.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, you're from Reliance or something
Yeah.
like that, or along the lines, but you don't realize that you're paying like 4 times worth, 4 times what the actual furnace is worth.
Right. Because when you look at the monthly payments and by how many years that they multiply it, so we'll circle back around now to just to stay a little bit more on topic. So we're talking about legal costs now. So that's let's just say it's $1,500. That's something that you got to budget for. And when you say the 1.5%, I assume you're also talking about property taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So property taxes is a huge thing when you're seeing properties that are in $300,000 and $400,000 and $500,000 of range. It's can be quite costly. So usually, one silver lining is you actually have first-time home buyer rebates for these things.
Yes.
So first-time home buyer rebates, up until very recently, just a couple of years ago, were only a maximum of $2,000. Nowadays, it's actually up to $4,000, which is just it's lovely, because when you're gonna get a $6,000 tax bill, and then you realize it's going to be chopped down to $2,000.
Yeah, that's a relief.
Yeah, it really does. So first-time home buyers, obviously, they have a little bit of advantage. So it's really good to get that information. And this info is on the web, but it's really tough to kind of go through.
Yeah. A lot of people will come to the realtor too, because that's her job.
Mm-hmm.
You expect, hey, why am I using you anyways if you can't give me this guidance?
It's funny. It's funny you mention that, because a lot of the times that the realtor is so caught up in these things that they're focused on what time the offer is irrevocable by, when the deal is going to be going through, if the initials are all on the right page, they're trying to make sure you're protected. And then you kind of forget sometimes that, well, hey, this person's not actually purchased or lived in a home on their own before, and they're not sure. Something as simple as your utility costs, right?
Yeah.
Like we were talking about electricity, so your gas, your insurance. Like when you add all these things up on a monthly basis, it could very well be, $300 or $400 additional that you're paying. So, that's why it's kind of misleading a little bit when people are on those websites and they say, well, this is what your monthly cost is going to be for your mortgage, but you're not taking into consideration hydro, heat, water, even water, something that's relatively cheap. It's still gonna run you a little bit more when you're washing your cars in the summer, or watering your grass. So these things are all pretty important. Anything else that you've noticed that buyers are just really completely unaware of?
It's kind of
condo
off of what we're
fees, or
coming. This is what I was going to talk about, actually. It's funny you just said that. I want to explain to you what's the difference between a freehold property and a condo property.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of times now, with the approvals, a lot of first-time buyers are not being able to afford the freehold properties. That's not a problem, because you can now get these condo properties. People think townhouse, but they don't realize you can get a townhouse as a freehold property or a condo property. Difference is, condo just means you pay a maintenance fee.
Right.
Maintenance fee would be for common areas,
all the different common elements, sidewalks, and a lot of times they will take care of exterior things like the roof and the windows and whatnot. And I guess this is another area that people really don't know too much about. So what we'll do, I think we'll stick a pin in that for a second, and what we'll do is we'll talk about it a little bit after the break.
Okay.
So when we get back from the break, we'll just talk a little bit about the differences on freehold properties and maybe jump into a little bit of a market update.
Sure.
Okay, see you soon.
We are doing this event for the community. But what if CEO actually stood for catching every opportunity?
This week alone, I've seen 3 businesses that shut their doors in this community.
Investing in yourself, like you have to know what your brand is first. So there's no other way that you're going to build a brand unless you network. You have to eventually get out there.
And it stems down to a lot of times not having the right knowledge, the right know-how.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Real Estate. Here with myself, Amit McCann, and we've got a special guest, Dennis from the Bridge team. So, really, what we're talking about, today, Dennis, or in this particular segment, is some of the differences that, or things that buyers actually don't know, and we're trying to really get rid of some of the myths and help them kind of guide them, and that's really what your job is at the Bridge team.
Yeah.
So you were talking a little bit about freehold versus condo.
Properties, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, jump back into that.
So now, what I was saying is the freehold properties are unreachable. Well, not unreachable, but for the first-time buyers these days, the approval's not coming to be enough to purchase that. So you can go with a condo townhouse,
Right.
which you'll pay a maintenance fee, usually a smaller maintenance fee.
$100 to $300, yeah.
On the average, yeah, about $300 bucks, something like that, $400
Right.
bucks maybe. But that usually includes for
Some of them include water. Some of them
Water,
even
yeah.
include heat. Yeah.
includes cable TV.
Oh.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
majority of the times that is. And I find with the difference between condo townhouses and condo apartments, the condo apartment has a higher maintenance fee, but will include your water, hydro,
Heat.
heat, and everything's included on an average. But these are also both good ways to get your feet wet in the market. As a first-time buyer, you shouldn't be discouraged because a lot of things, before you even go to the realtor,
Right.
you go to your family, your friends,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Hey, what should I buy? Hey, I just bought this, and
Or 10 years ago, I bought this house, or you
Yeah,
know, or
yeah.
and obviously prices have increased. So I guess the real thing to focus on is, if you have, you're trying to buy a condo townhouse versus a freehold townhouse, you really just have to think that, okay, this $300 on a monthly basis is going to be going towards some of my my other costs. So it's taking a little bit off your plate. So it's something
Yeah.
you don't really have to completely worry about.
Yeah.
Another thing that people don't realize, Dennis, is you are like with that. Not all that money, that $300 is going towards the the maintenance fees or whatnot. Maybe $150 out of that is going towards saving up into the condos.
Reserve
Yeah,
fund.
the reserve
Yeah.
fund. And reserve funds are really important. I think many people don't understand that when sometimes there's negative connotation with condo townhouses or condo buildings in general because they feel like you can't change the exterior doors, you can't change the windows. None of that stuff is really too important when you think about it because they're pooling that extra money into their reserve fund, and when the doors need to be changed, they're changing them all.
there's money there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and they're changing all the roofs. And when you really think about it, when you have 15 units in a row, you don't want unit number 1 to be with a red roof and unit number 2 to be with a green
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
And yeah, so these things are it's uniform, and it's a uniform for the condos. They all look the same. And I guess that's really what's important with that. You want to make sure there's a good condo management company
Yeah.
in place and different things like that.
Actually, I'd like to touch on that is also, too, if you're planning to buy a condo property, the status certificate is a huge part of that. You need to check that to make sure that the corporation has enough in the reserve fund to cover these things, because
Right.
next thing you know, your maintenance fee will be going through the roof. So that's another thing we'll touch on. I think I'm getting off.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Well,
You know,
not just
it's,
that too, right? You know, with these properties, what if there was a a lawsuit against the condo? Someone
Exactly.
slipped and fell. So those are things that the lawyer will definitely look at for you. And I guess that's
Yes.
also a part of the fees that you pay for the lawyer, which when you think about it, isn't that much.
Yeah.
$1,500. They're gonna check your status certificate, review that 80-page document or whatever
Yeah.
it is, and they're going to check your liens, close the transaction. So it's definitely a good value there. So that's really the kind of lowdown in a nutshell of condo properties. So versus the freehold properties now, I guess you say that many people, they don't understand that that's just it's a freehold, it's on its own property. Well, what kind of ideas do new buyers have about that?
Well, the thing is, people always think, okay, freehold, freehold, freehold. You have to go freehold, and then when the time comes, they can't, purchase it at that time. Then they figured, okay, let me just back out. So
And then there's a lot of additional expenses with these freehold properties too, because it's basically you're buying this structure, you own the land, you own the building, and you're paying your property taxes the same as anything else, but you have to account for fixing the roof. You have to account for fixing all these different
Yes,
things.
exactly.
With these condo properties, a lot of it's actually not all of it, but a lot of the exterior stuff is included into it. So it's it's cheaper for a reason. It's because you're actually getting a benefit out of it, and
Yes.
it really what it allows. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think you agree that it allows different price points for different people.
exactly.
Yeah, and I like the way you said it earlier, where it's something that you just get your feet into, you wet your feet. Because what I've noticed in particular is a lot of the millennial generation, and maybe 5 years older as well, they're feeling very discouraged with the marketplace, because they're all getting married, and I'm sure you have many clients like this.
Many.
So they're engaged, getting married, and they think, okay, well, next step, I want to purchase my property.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what happens now is, well, they're discouraged, and they say, well, oh man, I never wanted to live in a condo. I might as well stay in my parents' house, or parents might fix up a special spot in the basement, and as interesting as that sounds, as maybe as a good idea as you think it is in your head, you guide them a little bit differently. And tell me how you do that, and why do you do that?
Well, here's the thing. I get a lot of people, it's nice. You could stay at home, probably have a nice house. You have the whole basement to yourself, own washroom, everything. It's your own apartment.
And it's a big space.
Exactly. But the problem is, especially in this type of market, a lot of people think that the prices are going down. But actually, it looks like it's starting to change. And
Yeah,
it's
it's fairly
starting to go
stable.
up. And how long has it been now that the prices have just been going up?
Yeah.
A lot of people saying it's going to go down, but I haven't seen. It's just basically kind of stabilizing a little bit, but they're
Right.
staying at the same price that's listed as.
Right.
So the thing is, if you wait longer, it's like Jay says. When was the best time to plant the lemon tree?
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Because
You know what I mean?
Because you'd
So-
be eating fruit today.
Exactly. So it's the same thing. You
Okay.
should get something, get your feet wet, because even if you live there for a year, 2 years, something along those lines, and you want to sell it, which I don't recommend, by the way, but you can sell it and get something, step up. I did the same thing. I bought a condo, went through condo townhouse. I skipped the freehold townhouse and went straight to a semi, and then I have my detached now. So it's the steps from there, because the
Well,
different level of life. Right?
And you see, Dennis, what I think is really important for some of the viewers to hear the story, number one, but then also to realize that when you get your feet wet, you're not buying a depreciating asset. You're not purchasing a car, right? So you're buying it at this particular time in January 2018 or whatever the fact is, and then by January 2021. You're making some money on there.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're able to do one of two things. You're either able to, get rid of that property, which you said you don't recommend, but then move that money over to the other place, or if the property has appreciated by an amount that's substantial, or even that allows you to make another move, you can then just take the equity out of that property.
Exactly.
And
that's
then
the reason why I said I don't recommend it. Sorry to cut you off. So thank you for
Right.
continuing on that one.
Yeah, no, so you can just take the equity out of that property, and then you're able to keep the one as a rental. And one thing that I like the banks are doing now is they're counting the rental income for this other property. So now you can scoop out the equity, and then you purchase your next property.
Exactly.
So I think what I'm gathering is you kind of you break it down for the buyers, and you say, well, don't be discouraged. You just have to. You're gonna get to that white picket fence
Yeah.
at the end of the day, but you're just, instead of moving once the way your parents did, you're gonna have to move in steps, and you have to have a financial plan.
Exactly. It's like a baby. You got to crawl before you walk, right?
Right. So it's just that we're trying to shake that the idea that the generation that was buying houses in the 80s and 90s had, where they can just save up once or twice and make one move.
Exactly.
Now we've got to maybe have 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 moves, and along the way you can really try and build wealth if you manage to hang on to those properties. I myself did the same thing, and you move into smaller property and wait for the equity to increase, and then you go on to the next one. So I think your clients and clients in general will definitely appreciate something like that.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Now, other than that, we're running short on time now, so we'll just give the viewers a little bit of a market update.
Perfect.
So, what do you think's going on in the marketplace right now?
See, at the end of the day, it's all nobody knows. Nobody knows. That's the hardest thing.
If you had the crystal ball, so
if my thing on it, I would say, is just the way that the market's going. Like, we're seeing bidding wars still showing up.
Well, it's great you mentioned that now, because a lot of properties over the $700,000 range are really not selling that quickly at all.
No.
But anything in the 3, 4, maybe even 450 up to 500, you're having multiple offers on these properties.
Yeah.
And this wasn't happening since it wasn't expected to be happening. And really, I think this also is a little bit of an echo based on what the approval amounts are now. Because if people are getting qualified for a little bit of a lower amount,
exactly,
then the properties in that price range are going to fly off the shelf a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So realistically, you're probably looking at down this year from last year. Property prices are down roughly about 3% or so.
Yeah.
But it's not really all this negative noise that the media has been portraying.
Yeah.
Where they say, oh, the property prices are plummeting, or they say numbers are plummeting, but no one really knows what that means. Is that sales dollars? Is that sales volume? Is that sales price?
Yeah.
So a lot of these things, it's kind of doing it to sell newspapers.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, too, when I talk to clients, they're saying, oh, well, I listened to 680, and they said, I watched CP24, and they said, it's like doomsday is coming. Prices are going to drop so drastically. Just you beware, just stay tight, and you'll get that property.
Yeah.
But how do you know? Next thing you know, because if I'm still seeing properties going for bidding, for example, listed for 500, and then they're taking multiple offers, and the property gets sold for 565
or goes over asking price.
Yeah, a lot of these people, especially now when they get the lower approval rate, they start to get discouraged when you shouldn't be getting discouraged. These again, the condo properties are not a bad thing.
Right. So great. So the market is definitely. It's just more of a balanced market. You can now put in your offers, you can do your negotiation, you can do an inspection on the property. It's a little bit more of a fair time to purchase. And realistically, we're probably going to have flat growth for the next little few months. And I really think that we're going to have a fairly stable uptick in the remainder of the year. But either way, that really brings this session to a close. So really, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Let's Talk Real Estate. We do want to make sure and invite you out to our investment forum. That's later on this month. Well, actually next month. It's
next month,
it's March the 3rd at 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. That's at 96 Rexdale Boulevard. So Dennis is also going to be there, so you'll have a chance to chat with him as well, and hopefully just get some good knowledge. But I want to thank you guys very much for tuning in to Let's Talk Real Estate, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.